TGIF, it's Friday, finally, August 29th, 2025. Your Day Weather podcast brought to you by the Advocates Injury Attorneys. If you've been injured in an accident, don't face it alone. Get an experienced local Wyoming attorney on your side. Free consultations at WyomingAdvocates.com or call 307-800-1952. You deserve an advocate. Well, improving weather coming for the Labor Day weekend. We're still going to be contending with a little bit of weather, but the very active weather this week is going to begin to settle down a little for some of you. You'll notice that today in many areas, but we do have one little hurdle to get through over the three-day weekend, and that's going to be Saturday. So less activity today, but there's going to be an uptick as the back edge of the steep moisture plume exits the region. With daytime heating getting a little bit warmer, we're going to see some areas of showers and thunderstorms Saturday. So you need to plan for that if you're going to be spending some time outdoors across the Intermountain West and the Western High Plains this three-day weekend. However, Sunday and Monday really look nice. Sunday, Monday, and the Tuesday, comfortably warm, not going to be hot. We're going to see plenty of sunshine and less in the way of thunderstorms, so there's going to be a few. After this precipitation, residual moisture left behind is going to trigger still some shower and thunderstorm activity. But for the most part, 2 of the 3 days of the Labor Day weekend are looking like real winners. Then we have this midweek cold front. It's very impressive, especially for out on the plains and the central parts of the United States. We're going to see quite the contrast. Very cool for early September in the nation's midsection. It's going to be really hot in the Pacific Northwest and the West Coast, as you'll see here in a moment. Nice video here of a heavy downpour in Teton Valley, Idaho yesterday. Woo! Hear that coming down? Boy, talk about an area that really needed it. As we have been talking over the last couple of days, Utah, Idaho, western Wyoming, western Colorado, parts of Arizona and New Mexico finally getting into some summer precipitation. And the moisture, as we had been mentioning, was creeping northward and got that deeper moisture up into the Black Hills of South Dakota, and a great shot of moisture rising up and over Black Elk Peak in the Black Hills of South Dakota as that moisture increased across the region. Speaking of moisture, nothing like seeing it from 38,000 feet over New Mexico. A thunderstorm building and popping up. Beautiful shot there. You can see there's another thunderstorm there on the horizon, and you can see the cloudiness extensive in this deeper plume of moisture and the thunderstorms building up where we had some instability, little disturbance, or a mountain range helping to form these showers and thunderstorms. Then a couple of great lightning strikes from the activity that came through. The last 2 evenings have been bringing thunderstorm activity to some areas, especially the I-25 corridor area. One there from Glen Rock, and then awesome shot by Jan Curtis from his awesome weather view looking south across the Cheyenne area with a couple of thunderstorms that rolled through yesterday evening. And the buildup of clouds, impressive across western Nebraska again. And another shot from those thunderstorms yesterday evening that rolled across Laramie County, Wyoming. And up around the Douglas area, you can see it rained a little bit in Douglas, another area that could really use the rain. They were able to pick up some. Nice sunset in the Casper area after another round of showers and thunderstorms through central Wyoming yesterday. The water vapor loop shows that we're not done yet. The plume of moisture is still coming through. This is basically the back edge of it. As you can see the contrast between colors there. This is going to rotate through as we get into the days today and Saturday. Slowly it's going to rotate through like this. So there's going to be shower and thunderstorm activity. There was overnight. Back across this area here, you can see there's a little bit of a gap. That's why there's going to be a little bit of a decrease in thunderstorms today, as you'll see here in a moment. The precipitable water kind of shows that gap right here. There's still plenty of humidity in the air, but not as deep. So this is where your thunderstorm action is going to be today, in the darker green areas back here. As this moisture heads north and east Saturday, you'll see the thunderstorms pick up. Today, the Storm Prediction Center has basically sort of the same area yesterday. We did see some very heavy rain with some of the thunderstorms along the front range of Colorado yesterday, around Denver, down into Colorado Springs. This will be another area where the moisture is more concentrated and the thunderstorms could be a little bit heavier. General thunderstorms will be scattered elsewhere. Tomorrow, the drier air gets a little bit further east, although it's not tremendously dry air, but it's drier than it's been. This concentration of darker green and blue is where the thunderstorms will fire tomorrow. And there you can see that. So thunderstorm activity tomorrow, while not extensive, is enough that if you're going to especially be in the mountains of Wyoming and Colorado, out along on the eastern side of I-25 out into the plains, and then some deeper moisture trapped down here from West Texas through southern New Mexico into northwest Mexico, you're going to see plenty of activity. So this is an area, these two areas, where if you're planning outdoor activities tomorrow, be ready for that. And there's your general thunderstorm pattern for Saturday. Nothing highlighted as a concentrated area of severe. Then Sunday into Monday, we still have thunderstorms on the map, but as you can see, they're going to be spotty. They're going to be one of form over the higher terrain. So if you're in the mountains, you still have that risk of a late day thunderstorm Sunday and also into the day on Monday. But the thunderstorm activity definitely less extensive. This is Labor Day Monday. Up in the Dakotas, you've got a bit more activity, including the Black Hills and Pine Ridge area, Front Range areas, mountain areas. You're going to still see a few popping on up. But temperatures will be warmer. You're going to get a lot more in the way of sunshine. We're shifting gears. Then as we look ahead, what's going to be happening as we get into the end of the weekend, then into next week? Well, this is what the weather map looks like for Sunday. Kind of a little bit of a smorgasbord. We still have the high here over the desert southwest, a couple of lows hanging off the Pacific, but generally more of a west to easterly flow. This is why it's going to be a little bit more mild, but certainly not hot across the U.S. this Labor Day weekend. But up here, we've got high pressure wanting to form. This high pressure ridge is going to come up, and what you're going to see is an amplification of the jet stream like this. This is Sunday. So Sunday into Monday and Tuesday, not a lot going on. But midweek, we see that amplification. We see the ridge building up along the west coast, and we see quite the trough forming. A lot of amplitude. What do I mean by that? Well, if you follow the wind path here, as we just showed you, the winds go up along the west coast of British Columbia, bringing heat to the west coast, but then the jet stream takes a big dive south. This is a lot of latitude. When you change latitude of air like this, from these 2 points of latitude, you're transporting cross-latitude air, which is going to transport much cooler air from up here into the United States. And this is really going to be noted Wednesday through Friday. This is quite the cold shot for early September for the nation east of the Rockies. While it boils in Seattle and Portland up to Vancouver and gets very warm into California and the desert southwest. And boy, look at that contrast. You can see that. The warmth extends all the way from Alaska all the way down here, while the cold comes right out of central Canada and pours into the eastern and central areas of the United States. This is a little bit of the basic pattern or the premise that we talked about in our long-range seasonal forecast. When you get these high pressures to build like this along the west coast and in the Gulf of Alaska, you displace the air that's up here, and it's got to go, it's not going to go north, it's going to go south when high pressure ridges want to be here. And that's something that we're seeing right now, and that may continue into the start of the fall season. That's why the fall may be off to a bit of an earlier start if we see this pattern kind of coming back, and it does look like at least during the month of September it will. So the cold air really pours in. This is Wednesday. These are the temperature anomalies on Thursday. Now, we're still not expecting that this is going to be a freeze or frost situation. But boy, it's going to be really fallish middle to the end of next week, east of the Rockies and into the Rockies. West of the divide, you can see the heat. And that's on Friday. So Friday, the colder air spills across the southern plains, gets all the way to near the Gulf Coast, and heads up into the Great Lakes, while we have the real hot weather back here in the Pacific Northwest. So the middle to the end of next week will be impressively cool, and you see the coolness by Friday with the jet stream still very amplified, going into the central and eastern United States. Not a lot of moisture is expected with this cool surge. Yes, there's going to be some upslope. You're going to get upslope along and east of the divide. And you can look at the 5-day temperature pattern. This is from Monday through basically Friday and Saturday morning of next week. So basically look at this as Monday through Saturday of next week. Look at that temperature anomaly in the central plains. Wow. And then you can see that along and east of the divide is where the cool air banks up, and there will be upslope. So clouds, some light shower activity will be found along the Front Range and the I-25 corridor areas. Not a lot of precipitation. You're going to get some showers and thunderstorms here. Canadian cold fronts on their own aren't going to bring a lot of moisture, but upslope, this is from Monday through Friday of next week. So you can see there's going to be some precipitation along and east of the divide, but we don't have the deep subtropical moisture influence with this front like we just have experienced here over the last week or so. So there will be a lot of clouds and a lot of coolness east of the divide for a good part of next week, starting on Wednesday. West of the divide, you're going to be hot with only a little bit of shower and thunderstorm activity. When is the next front? So we're looking out 2 weeks here. So we showed you this yesterday that towards the middle of September, we're going to have to watch for maybe another situation setting up where we have a high amplitude flow again. So we're seeing 2 weeks out on the European model here, high pressure wanting to build out in the Pacific again. But notice, instead of being here, it's here. So if it's here, that displaces the colder air further west into this part of the country instead of this part of the country. We'll just have to wait and see. But right around the middle of the month, we'll need to keep an eye on things. And there's a prediction right now, the models of a very robust jet stream wind forming in the North Pacific wanting to head southeast. We'll see. This may not come together. This may break off and go across the western United States with not a deep trough forming. But it's something that we're going to keep an eye on, especially when we start looking towards the middle of the month. We'll have more for you on that next week. In the meantime, have a great Labor Day weekend.